Let's bring in former FBI Deputy Assistant Director Danny Coulson. Thank you so much for talking to us. I want to talk about the infrastructure in our country, because that has been obviously a talking point for politicians, that a lot of money needs to be thrown into it. It's been an area perhaps neglected. The buildings along 2nd Avenue in particular in downtown Nashville, they are historical. Many of them were built in the 1850s, making them even more vulnerable to the explosion. So what can cities nationwide learn from this and do to become less vulnerable?
Well, with regard to cities, certainly more patrol. The more patrol officers you have out there that can intercept these type things, the better off you are. And the whole idea that we would defund the police and not have their assistance in situations like this is kind of silly. The one thing to think about, an explosion like this may cause damage down the road. After Oklahoma bombing, we had a building 4 blocks away fall down after the initial blast. So there's a lot of tremor, a lot of trauma to these buildings. They could go down tomorrow. So it's more than looking at what you see as blast damage. It's the internal damage that you don't see that you have to be concerned about. But we don't put money into infrastructure. It's a money issue. If we lost our internet because of a lack of communication with our cell phone services, we'd be in big trouble here. The whole world runs, our country runs on that now.
Yeah, the Nashville explosion is precisely why we need to keep police departments funded in order to protect our cities, in order to protect our people. And if it had not been for those 6 police officers in Nashville that went and alerted the public, did door-to-door safety checks, and evacuated people, many people have been killed, could have been killed. So that, I'm glad that you brought that up. I also want to bring up what former Assistant FBI Director had to say about a potential motive for the Nashville bombing. Let's watch.
We're living in an incredibly politically charged environment. There's tremendous, dangerous polarization, and it's being fueled by social media conspiracy theorists out there. And yes, I'm aware that there are groups and individuals who seem to think that 5G technology might be the cause of COVID, that technology generally is targeting us.
How difficult will it be to pin down a motive when your primary suspect is dead?
They can do it, and they will do it. They'll go through his computer like you've never seen anybody go through a computer. They'll go through his cell phone records. They've searched his house. They'll talk to everybody that he's ever known, every group he's ever been affiliated with, and they will likely get a motive from him. But remember, in the Vegas shooting, we never found out what happened with that guy. Some people are just disturbed. There's no accounting for what they do, and I think we may find that here. Although there's some hints that will give us some direction, and I would say within probably a week or two, we'll have a motive or never have a motive. It's that complicated.
How can law enforcement nationwide avoid copycat incidents? Because already we've seen one.
The only way they can do it is if they have actionable intelligence. If they get information from a normal investigation or some concerned citizen, some responsible citizen comes forward and says, my uncle's talking about blowing up the AT&T building. That's where a lot of our stuff comes from. Public services, the way they help law enforcement, the FBI, the local police, the sheriff's office, that's where we get our information. And if we don't get that information, they're helpless.
All right, Danny Coulson, thank you so much, former FBI Deputy Assistant Director.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming on. Happy holidays.